Hi, I'm Steven from Olipop. My inbox is admittedly a mess, and I get way too many emails. But one of the only emails or newsletters I actually read every issue of is the D2C newsletter, hands down.
You heard the man. Go to directtoconsumer.co right now and subscribe to our twice a week newsletter.
Yeah, with respect to Facebook, in my humble opinion, I think people over rely on what Facebook tells them, and I admittedly was a victim of this. And we kind of like started running Facebook ads about a year and a half ago, kind of right before the pandemic, and I was just taking it for face value. And it wasn't until we hired an expert and brought in a girl from Vayner named Audrey. It was incredible. And she kind of showed me that, Facebook kind of shows you what you want to see and the way the attribution windows work. And, somebody could click an ad and buy something, from an email 21 days later, and Facebook takes full credit for that, which really isn't how it should work. And so she's kind of rebuilt an attribution model that looks at, some different, some combination of weighting between first touch, last touch, and a little bit in the middle to, figure out what, kind of a weighted, CPA looks like on Facebook. And it's funny, after she built that out, our the actual acquisition cost on Facebook was like anywhere from 8 to 10 times higher, depending on how you looked at it. And I was like, I was wondering, it made a little bit more sense.
Brands, we need to talk. It's time to start texting your customers. Yotpo, the leading e-commerce marketing platform, has the most advanced SMS marketing solution to reach customers where they are on their phones. Yotpo enables brands to build unbeatable targeted SMS experiences to create customer connections and drive revenue fast. Visit yotpo.com, that's YOTPO.com, and get personal with SMS marketing today. Hello and welcome to the D2C podcast. I'm Eric Dick, and today we are blessed to be speaking with Steven Vigilante, the growth marketing manager at Olipop. Now, we've had Olipop on the podcast a few times now. We've most recently with Eli Weiss, looking at the customer experience aspect of the brand, and we're really excited to be diving into some stuff with Steven on the growth marketing side. Olipop, as you may know, is a deliciously fizzy tonic that combines the benefits of prebiotics, plant fiber, and botanicals to support your microbiome and benefit digestive health. But Olipop is just also such an incredible growth story. Last year, they grew 1,000% year over year. They expected to grow 100% this year and are actually on pace for between 300 and 400% growth. So they're absolute D2C darlings, big on D2C Twitter. Really happy to have you here, Steven. I wanted to ask you right off the top, and this kind of relates to something we heard a little bit about your Facebook acquisition strategies and how they've changed over the last little while. Where do D2C brands go wrong with growth marketing strategies?
Uh, and I mean, with respect to Facebook, in my humble opinion, I think people over rely on what Facebook tells them, and I admittedly was a victim of this. And we kind of like started running Facebook ads about a year and a half ago, kind of right before the pandemic, and I was just taking it for face value. And it wasn't until we hired an expert and brought in a girl from Vayner named Audrey. It was incredible. And she kind of showed me that, Facebook kind of shows you what you want to see and the way the attribution windows work. And, somebody could click an ad and buy something, from an email 21 days later, and Facebook takes full credit for that, which really isn't how it should work. And so she's kind of rebuilt an attribution model that looks at, some different, some combination of weighting between first touch, last touch, and a little bit in the middle to, figure out what, kind of a weighted, CPA looks like on Facebook. And it's funny, after she built that out, our the actual acquisition cost on Facebook was like anywhere from 8 to 10 times higher, depending on how you looked at it. And I was like, I was wondering, it made a little bit more sense. But yeah.
What action did you take when you figured
We
that
cut
out?
we cut Facebook spend actually ultimately in half from where, at a peak from November last year during kind of holiday Black Friday, and where it is now. We actually haven't grown spend for the last 4 months now, and we ended up doubling down on influencer marketing and paid performance based influencer marketing. And reason being, we've kind of partnered with this analytics platform called Source Medium probably 6 months ago now. That's it completely changed our business. It stitches together all your e-commerce data in one place with a beautiful dashboard. It pushes a report into Slack every day and just kind of shows you where everything's coming from. And you can really go in and deep dive, by things like discount code, and you can see who your top performing influencers are, not just by acquisition, but by retention. And it was overtly obvious that both the cost to acquire from influencers and the retention of those customers was significantly better than someone just buying from a cold Facebook ad. So yeah, we're pretty ruthless every month, moving things up and down. We've scaled up and down on podcasts. As we record this, we're prepping for our first TV campaign to launch across YouTube and streaming on June 7th, my birthday next week.
Nice.
And so, yeah, learning that whole world right now. And today's a very manic day. We do like a ton of things we still need to do before that can launch, but awesome learning. And maybe I can come back on and talk about my TV experience in a couple months.
Yeah, definitely. You'll be a regular guest. Don't worry. The thing I wanted to, let's go back to influencers there. Just because when you say influencer marketing, like, are you talking about specifically like influencer marketing for the actual traffic as well, or leveraging their assets more into ads? Like, what's the main focus with the influencer marketing? Is it using them as content or as their actual scale?
Yeah, we haven't done enough of the content stuff. We're not spending that much on Facebook, so I don't need as many raw assets as I think other businesses are. That I've talked to brands who are spending more in a day than we spend in a month on Facebook, and they're testing 5 to 8 pieces of new creative every week. Like, that's not how we operate. We have maybe 10 pieces running at any given time, and we refresh it every 2 to 3 weeks. So if I needed it more, we would do that. But we do what's referred to as direct response influencer marketing, where it's a discount code, a swipe up. I always caveat this, like, I don't think most products are designed for this because the influencers are very expensive to work with. And we're fortunate that we've got like really cute packaging. It's really easy to talk about. It's unique. A lot of the influencers are now reaching out to us and like genuinely love it and have some real relationship with it that allows them to, not just come off as authentic, but be authentic on camera, which I find to be very important and very valuable. And so, yeah, it's here's a discount code, here's a swipe up, it's good for 24 hours. And, we've had some crazy things happen with influencers. We had a YouTuber that did, a 60-second ad read, and it generated more sales in a day than like we did, in the whole month of March last year, just as an example. And which is crazy, right? It's like, yeah, I don't necessarily listen to those types of people all the time, but there's a lot of people who do, and audience and community is very real, and we've been able to really tap into that.
That's amazing. And so when you took this budget out of Facebook, we all have this love-hate relationship with Facebook, even an agency like us that's spending a huge amount all the time. And to hear that you were able to take this budget out of there and still like, what were your actual results when you did that? Did your conversion rates go up overall? Did your revenue go up overall? Like, what actually happened when you cut that Facebook spend?
Not a lot, to be honest. It was one of those where we cut it back and revenue didn't flinch much, and it was like, yeah, it kind of validated what we thought. It's one of those things that's hard to really suss out because we did double our influencer spend, and the influencer spend really converts well. So like Facebook attributable revenue, probably came down a bit, but conversion rate went up because the influencer stuff converts so much better. So
yeah,
it's very hard to parse out, exact, stuff there. I think I just love that we have this attribution model. We can kind of really look at, Facebook attributable revenue on this weighted basis. And that's sort of, there's also like different caveats. Like in January, we did a massive push and campaign around New Year, New Me, and then kind of pulled back a bit in February, March across the board, and then went really hard in April with the new flavor launching. So it's just one of those, like, we've only been really selling online since the month before the pandemic. And so like between pandemic and then last summer and then holidays and like flavor launches, like I still don't know what a normal month is. Like this coming month, actually, this month of June, like will probably be our most normal month ever because no flavor launch, no promotions. It's kind of the middle of the year. The world is opening back up again. But we're also still a predominantly retail business. And so the retail data is king. And we just kind of use, think about e-commerce as a very important growth engine in the business, but really the way to get the word out and hence why we're doing some of these national campaigns coming up here.
I love it. I got to just speak out for Facebook advertisers everywhere when I say, when you combine the organic base that your product has, the organic love that influencers give them, and then actually, try some whitelisted campaigns where you're putting budget into those creatives will work 10 times better than the other ones you're doing. Whether you go through that influencer's handle or whether you just repurpose that influencer content, I think it could be revolutionary for the ad side of the biz, and just make sure that the spend you do put there is fire.
Yeah, we know we need to be better at it. It's just one of those, like, we don't have an expert in house and our Facebook budgets are just not that big. And so it's on the roadmap. I'm actually starting to source some of it now. I always joke, I think like we've spent, thousands of dollars on ads, specific pieces of creative that have performed worse than ads that, pieces of UGC that I shoot like in the yard outside my house. So it's one of those, like, usually the ugly simple stuff just converts better, and they've all have different, different use cases, different parts of the funnel. We do a lot on LinkedIn, and we just built out an Amazon page a few months ago, and some of that like stop motion cool stuff that doesn't work as well on Facebook does well on there. So it just kind of depends what platform you're talking about.
That's interesting. Yeah, you guys have such an array of beautifully branded ads as well. I'm sure mixing UGC into that flow would be an interesting decision for you. I wanted to ask a little bit of, you were talking about influencers, but then there's also like celebrities, and you have a recent story with a celebrity that sort of kind of came to you organically. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, good timing as we're launching that next week as well. But in my brain, kind of an idol and an icon, but a guy named Kenny Mayne, who is, I know when I was like 10 years old, my dream was to be a sportscaster on ESPN. He was like the guy, the main sports center anchor, and was there for 27 years. And I don't know, just 3 weeks ago now, announced he was parting ways with ESPN. They kind of lowballed him on a contract offer, and he hopped on another sports podcast to announce his departure. And they asked him kind of in the opening minute what he was doing, his first kind of day off, or the first day of the rest of his life, I guess. And he says, "I'm sitting in my backyard drinking, or eating an omelet, drinking an Olipop," and goes on to like kind of gush over us and how much he loves the product. And he goes, "Olipop, if you're listening, get at me." So I hop on Twitter. I'm like, I don't know how else to get a hold of this guy. He tweets right back, sends me his number. I call him, and he kind of gave me this whole story about how he was drinking 2 Coca-Colas a day for 25 years, and his doctor was on him for it, his wife was on him for it, and he just couldn't find a good replacement. And then he heard us on an ad for us on Pod Save America, a big political podcast last fall, and actually texted the guy from Pod Save America to make sure that we were legit, because he knows sometimes those ads are just paid to be there. And he hit him back and said, "Yeah, this stuff's amazing. I've cut Diet Coke out of my diet." And so Kenny ordered some and jumped on a subscription. And as he stepped down from ESPN, he's starting a production company and getting more into TV and film potentially, and wanted to like announce a brand deal. And he said there was no other brand he'd rather work with. And for us as a brand, like all you're looking for is people like that who are authentic, obsessive customers, because they're the easiest people to work with and they can tell an authentic story. So within 2 weeks, we've turned around an ad that he shot in his backyard talking about his love of Lollipop. And it's really hit on brand. It's super funny and quirky. And he's kind of got this deadpan humor. He actually bought out a bunch of sugar from the grocery stores around his house, and he filled a wheelbarrow, and he kind of talks about like, "I'm drinking this stuff, not the other stuff." And it's awesome. It came out so good. And he's very, I don't know, he's very much in the cultural zeitgeist right now. He's a fan of the program. I mean, he's calling and we're FaceTiming regularly, and I was on the phone with him all day when he was shooting it.
You manifested it. That's amazing to get a child. I'm a huge fan of sports programs, and I think that's absolutely amazing. And even just that idea of him coming on another show after he's free and clear of a bad situation, relaxing with an Olipop, like it's just all on brand. It's so good.
I don't want to say too much yet, but he has a second idea with a very famous NFL player that is like so good, and it's a little ways off, but we're gonna run the first one, see how it goes. But if we pull this off, it'll be the coolest thing I will ever do in my life. Oh,
how many NFLers are addicted to soda? Like I bet you have a really great opportunity there too.
I mean, soda is a $35 billion industry in the United States. There are, literally millions of people who are addicted to it. And we're trying to do our part to make some change there.
Nice. And when you're on that kind of mission, it just, empowers this growth where you expect it and sort of believe the world deserves it.
I mean,
which I love.
We talk about this, like somebody like LeBron James, who has honestly the biggest platform you could have, and is getting paid millions of dollars to like jam Mountain Dew down like children's throats. You just think about like the issue there, right? Like he could be doing so much good with that if he had a product like ours that he was, supporting, getting behind, and what he could do in the school systems and in inner cities. And it's just painful to watch. The new Mountain Dew flavor, I think it's 75 grams of sugar in it, that watermelon. That's it's a crime. It's poison. And so, some of these people, it's crazy because I think the world of LeBron. I think he's a great guy with a big heart, and there's a dollar sign there, obviously, that's making him act like that. But as we get into this world of celebrities and talent, we're having lots of conversations with major music artists and athletes. That's kind of our spiel. It's like you can really make an impact with this product if you help kind of push it out there. So
amazing.
the plan for the next couple months and years.
Can you talk a little bit, you obviously don't give any details, but can you talk a little bit about the shape of how these partnerships work and how they're fundamentally different from regular influencer relationships?
Yeah, so I mean, we're kind of early innings here. I don't necessarily want to disclose who exactly we're talking to, but they don't do one-offs. There's no just like, with a lot of like the wellness influencers, you're doing like a swipe up and a discount code, and maybe you run it back with them a few months later if they did well, but they're kind of these one-offs and you're selling to a very specific target audience. Some of these bigger people, it's like you need to be doing 6 and 12-month contracts. There's a package you're buying basically, which candidly works better, I think. You want to be immersed in their life. You want them to be holding it where they're going, blah, blah, giving it to their friends. Like, you want to make them part of the family. And obviously there's a cost to that, but it gets to a point where like, it's worth it. And as we're scaling mainstream, like when we were in just 1,000 stores just in California 2 years ago, none of these deals would have made any sense. If you didn't have an e-commerce operation up and running, it doesn't make sense. But we're 6,000 stores across the country now. We're in all 50 states. We're in places like Target and 7-Eleven in completely different parts of the country. We've got a thriving e-commerce business, and we'll be in 10,000 stores by the end of the year. The end of the year, we're going into the biggest retailer in the country next year. Like these types of global or national, whatever, partnerships with people who've got global awareness, like start to really make sense and like can really propel a brand forward if they're executed correctly. I see a lot of these big celebrity rounds and big deals, and then like the person like posts once a year and it's like, well, what do you even do that for other than like a press release around the round? So yeah, we're very much focused on people who already know and like the product and want to get like seriously involved.
And that's even like, that's at a revenue level. That's at a, like, I don't know if you can answer this, but are you talking about bringing people on as actual partners or equity holders even?
All of the above. Yeah.
Interesting.
We've had conversations where it's just, us paying for a certain amount of posts and content. There's been conversations around having people directly invest in us. Have had, early conversations around like, co-creation of a flavor with somebody, who could move the needle on it. So, it's the world is your oyster kind of at this point. It's been interesting the last 12 months. Like I live in Los Angeles, and I would tell people I was working on this like prebiotic soda thing. People were like, what are you talking about? And now like in the last even really 6 months, it's like, almost everywhere I go and everyone I bring it up to, it like knows it. And you can feel people in my life who used to be like, what the hell are you doing? Are like, oh, that's that thing I see everywhere. And I drink now with my lunch every day. And it's cool. It's cool. It's validating.
Become ubiquitous.
Exactly.
And one of the strategies is to talk a little bit, you hit on this, I think, when you're talking about the influencers and just how important a native ad read is, or ideally is an organic situation like Mr. Mayne, who loves your product and seeks you guys out. Beyond that, it's really about making the ad read as sort of as native as possible. And I hear that's obviously the same thing on the podcast side. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with podcast marketing?
Yeah, sure. It's 100% accurate. The better the read, where it falls in the episode is also unfortunately very important. People usually listen to the first few ads and then come towards the end they're not, or they just don't make it through the whole episode. We have kind of like a consultant we work with on this, but I always offer up a call. I always want to talk to the host if we can, because we have a really amazing story behind the business. The founders are incredible. One founder has kind of crazy health journey. He's also just brilliant and formulated, this is like his third beverage brand, and he formulates all the products in his kitchen. We've got a microbiome kind of research and advisory board made up of 4 of like the world's, forefront like leaders in the microbiome space on the research side. And so like, there's a lot of science and data behind what we're doing. And when you explain that to people, they're like, oh, this isn't just like a silly sparkling water with some ingredients thrown into it. Like, this thing is really legit. And I think that often comes through in the reads versus when we just kind of like write some talking points and hand them to someone. And we had a bummer of a situation happen with Dax Shepard, who's actually like one of my favorite podcasts, but he was traveling and he just kind of like read exactly what was on the screen, and he didn't put any personal flair into it. It's unfortunate because he's like a massive Diet Coke drinker. Like, I'd say behind like Bill Gates and like Elon and maybe Trump. He's like one of the most notorious Diet Coke drinkers, and he could have totally moved the needle for us. And it was just such a brutal, like, sounded so unauthentic. He didn't have his co-host there. They usually banter about the product, and she's a huge fan of it too. So it was tough, and it showed through in the results. I mean, as good as that episode did that I mentioned earlier with Pod Save America was as as bad as this one was with Dax. And it's unfortunate because they're very expensive, mess ups. It's like that can be a swing of, luck for, fortunately for us, we're like a little bit past this stage in terms of sides, but you're a smaller brand and you're, dropping 20 to 30K on an ad read like that, and it doesn't go well, it can really hurt you.
And what made the pod save the queen?
Pod Save America.
Pod Save America. Yeah, I'm familiar with the podcast. I was blanking on it. But what made that one so successful besides the fact that it netted you this?
There was no read. They were just talking about it. And John Lovett, who I would put in the Dax category of notorious Diet Coke drinkers, literally said in the episode that everyone knows that listens to it that he drinks Diet Coke all the time. He literally said he was going to drink Diet Coke again because he found this Olipop stuff. And again, it was the Joe Biden interview the week before the election. It was probably their most downloaded episode of the year. We had the second slot. I think it was an Athletic Greens ad and then an Olipop ad. It was just perfect. I'll never forget where I was when I listened to it. It was like you're supposed to get a 60-second read. They went like 3.5 minutes. It was so authentic. And, I got goosebumps. I was like, I heard it and I was like, this is amazing. This isn't even an ad. This is just them telling their audience about this new product that they love. And that's the magic there. Same thing with influencers. I review all of our influencer videos. I spend way too much time doing it. We do anywhere between 30 and 60 posts a month, and I review all of them before they go live. And I can tell to a T the ones that are going to convert and the ones that are not. It's kind of textbook psychology. It's like, how authentic and real is this? And I had one I turned down yesterday. She's like, high five-figure type of post for a story, and it was terrible. It was like absolutely terrible. I was like, no way would I pay for this. Like, I'd rather not do it than push that out into the world. So,
and generally, do you do one for just influencers? Do you do the one-time payments for these things, or do you do rev share or those kinds of things with the influencer?
The best ones will not do affiliate model. Candidly, they can just make way more doing it up front, and the good brands know that and are willing to pay. So, mostly, generally speaking, it's funny. We did have like one of our best performing posts ever last year was an affiliate, someone who had reached out to us and we had to offer an affiliate, and it did it was crazy. It was actually, I think it was maybe our top performing Instagram post ever. And it was, or Instagram story post. And that was on affiliate, but yeah, for the most part, it's the high performers do not do affiliate.
Interesting. So you called
that one with one caveat there, our AOV is like 45. And so, if we're paying whatever, 10 or 15%, it's a small fries. Like, talked to the founder of Fascination yesterday, who is also the founder of Lisa Mattresses. Like, we're selling $1,000 mattresses. Affiliate is very interesting, right? 10% of 1,000 is way higher than 10% of 40. And totally. So different AOV, different world. But it was actually pretty interesting. He was kind of schooling me about how that D2C mattress space was really built on affiliate marketing. And a lot of those brands, Lisa was really the first one to crack the code. And they had a really interesting affiliate relationship with Barstool. I remember back in the day, Lisa was all over Barstool, and they were getting a cut of every one of those sales, which I'm sure very few people knew that, but kind of interesting how that whole world works.
Barstool would be a very interesting partner for you guys, I imagine, as well.
Yeah, it's another story there. Got in touch with them at the beginning of this year. We sponsored some podcasts. It was too early. I think if we went back now, we've grown a lot since then. We've got a lot more stores, and just I think it was more mainstream zeitgeist. It didn't, we advertised on a couple of their podcasts. It kind of fell flat. Some of the reads were pretty good actually, and it's interesting. They have a mixer brand they work with, so they couldn't specifically talk about how good of a cocktail mixer we are, which I think would have resonated more with their audience than just like this healthy soda thing. There's another good example of like how the different types of prompts and copy impact the performance, but it didn't convert well. I actually just reached back out to them because I think it would be interesting to re-explore. But
and I imagine your script is always evolving. You're always learning, going from event to event to make sure that. I was just wondering when I hear you, because you ideally want to tell them and show them all about the product, and then the words become their own, right? Like, it's not best when you have to explain to them, this is how we'd like you to react to it in a way, right? I imagine it's best when you get them to have those organic experiences.
One of my favorite prompts I do for anyone on podcast or influencer read is, especially if they're already a customer, like, how would you explain this to your mom, dad, brother, sister who's a soda drinker? How would you convince them that this is better? Like, that's all it is. I want you to sell this product to your loved one that you care about that is drinking regular soda. That's almost always the prompt that we go with.
That's huge. Nice. Thank you for your insights there. Let's talk a little bit about, I had such a great interview with Eli. Although I want to have everyone in your company on at some point. But we went deep on customer experience and his sort of thoughts on that. I wanted to ask a little bit about how you guys interact. What are the most valuable ways that you sort of interact with the customer experience team in order to inform and sort of fuel your marketing?
Kind of like my running joke internally is like I make Eli's life hell because I'm the one running around setting up all the new things that like inherently always something goes wrong and breaks and it makes its way back to the CX team. But no, we're like literally best friends. We talk all the time. Shout out to him. He just had like the cutest baby ever and is on paternity leave right now.
Amazing.
He'll be back in the office actually next week. But yeah, we view, it's kind of like a party line I think we use a lot, but we do view CX as marketing channel. And I always say like it's the easiest and cheapest and freest, not freest, but the cheapest way to communicate with your customers without going anywhere, right? They're reaching out to you. 99% of them have tried the product or are dealing with some sort of issue. And it's very simple to like be friendly and nice and accommodative and make someone's day and turn them from a detractor to a promoter. But beyond that, like I'm working with our, ads team to make ads that are trying to answer like common questions or issues that, guests or customers are writing in about. And Ariel, who is kind of our head of like influencer gifting and, supports me in everything I do and is helping me with content ideas for influencers. And she also, they splits her time between there and like the customer service inbox. And so she's, on the front lines of what these people are saying, like, okay, how can we use influencers and the briefs we give to influencers to like combat common questions that people are asking around, like, refrigeration of the product or, what are prebiotics and what are these different ingredients? Like we can use the microphone of these influencers to like educate people at the front end so they know what they're buying instead of having to be confused on the back end. So it's interesting because it seems so normal. It's just like what we do and like the team is so collaborative. And then I talk to other people like, oh, CX is never in the marketing meetings. Like, why would you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I think that's just I think it's the right strategy. But
it seems pretty organic. Marketers across all industries are seeing CPMs skyrocket on social and digital platforms. As their campaigns start to lose effectiveness, they're searching for a new channel to scale efficiently. Tatari helps brands buy and measure ads across linear and streaming TV, capturing the most important metrics so you can assess performance and optimize your TV campaign just like you do on other digital channels. Visit Tatari.tv to see why brands like Calm, Ibotta, and Rothy's use Tatari's TV advertising measurement and service to optimize and scale on TV. I wanted to ask, like, what do you see? Obviously, you guys have super lofty goals. I know we talked a bit in the pre-interview about you guys really seeing big soda as your main competitors in this game. What do you see as like any roadblocks that the customer has to that happening? Like, what are your key things you're trying to overcome in order to become everyone's Coke and Pepsi?
I mean, price, number one answer. Yeah, at the end of the day, the ingredients are great and important, and taste is king. But the reality is, you can buy a Zevia for 79 cents, and then we're $2.49, right? And you could get, online, I don't know, 12 packs Diet Coke are probably anywhere from 12 to 14 bucks. So somewhere in the 79 cents to $1.25 range. And so we're anywhere from 2 to 3x more expensive than that. And when you're in LA and you have kombucha shoppers paying $5, we're cheap, right? We look great. But when you go to a Kroger in Midwestern Kentucky, $2.49 for a little 12-ounce soda like sounds kind of crazy. And so it's on us to educate people about why it's $2.49, what's in there, what the functional benefits are of the product. Like it is like more fiber than like 99% of fiber supplements. So there's kind of like that whole angle. But price and price, and I think just like a general skepticism that healthy drinks taste bad. There's enough healthy products, healthy, quote unquote healthy beverages in the world that do not taste good. And so consumers have almost been trained to be like, oh, it's low calorie. Like it's not going to, satiate me. And it's definitely not going to crave that sweet sugar kind of craving that I have. And that's why we just have to get it in people's hands. And that's why the influencer stuff is so helpful, because like they can tell the audience how well it tastes. And Kenny Mayne can tell the audience what it tastes like. Like it's one thing coming from the brand, but we have this kind of like, ecosystem now of people talking about how it does really taste like soda. I think people are always shocked that it's not a sparkling water. It's not like super vinegary. It's a soda. And
it gives you that,
But we haven't. I can feel it though. I can feel the critical mass of people like pulling more people into the ecosystem. Because people love it. I mean, people really do.
And you've centered on this aspect of it being this solution, like the fact, like when the way the world is happening right now, people are becoming more and more aware of big institutions and structures that you're like, oh, maybe you don't have my best interest at heart. I feel like that's happening on a number of fronts across the world right now. And Big Soda is a great example of that. Like when you were explaining how Mountain Dew's putting out a, 72 gram, like that's almost malicious at that point, like knowing what we know about corn syrup as
Yeah.
well. So like the way you've built your marketing organically to these people actually like overcoming this sort of like blind addiction to these products that don't at all have their best interest in heart. Like I think that's got to be a real fundamental pillar, and it is like really organically with what you're doing already.
Yeah. Yeah, it 100% is.
I love it.
I mean, we got all sorts of cool gut health stuff we want to do in the future, and it's crazy. It's like feels like it's been forever, but it's also feel like it's been a blink of an eye, and it's been we launched like 2.75 years ago, I guess now, September 2018. And we've gotten a lot done, but we've got a ton of work to do. I always say with e-commerce, it just feels like there's like this Russian doll, and you get through like one, you figure out how to do this, and then you're like, all right, now you gotta, there's the next platform, the next, audience you're gonna go after, and like, esports is going to quickly become a really interesting area for us. I'm like, I haven't played video games in 20 years. Like, how do I, it's networking, it's talking to people in the space, and there's no end, right? It's just like the next Russian doll is bigger than the one before it, and you can start with Facebook, and then get to YouTube and TV and radio and audio and influencer and celebrity talent, and like there's no end of places to market.
When you divert your focus from Facebook a little bit, it's I think a really interesting lesson. Let's dive in on esports just a little bit. Like esports are such a great, with the way the movie industry is going, like when was the last like big, but there's only like a few big budget movies now. And like a lot of that attention is flooding into video games. They're actually a bigger industry than I think the movie industry is now by quite a bit. And you also, it's just this young audience of people that probably were brought up on, Mountain Dew Red Alert, and are increasingly more, conscious and woke just because they're tied to a computer all day. And so I feel like they're a really great sweet spot for you guys. What are your plans with esports?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much there because we have big plans, and I think they're very unique, and I'm very excited about them. But I can tell you, in talking to my friends and colleagues who are either in gaming or in esports or one layer removed, there are very few better for you food or beverage brands talking to anybody in that space, which is kind of mind blowing given how pervasive energy drinks and big soda are in that space. But yeah, we plan to make a splash there, and I will leave it at that.
You are like an absolute tornado of growth. It feels like you just have all these things going on, this, limitless idea and energy. Can we talk a little bit about how you've structured the growth team to be able to like, pick up the pieces essentially? And how have you structured the actual team to act on all of these amazing opportunities?
Yeah, so I would start by saying I think we have the best team ever. When we get together, we do about a week a month in a city as a marketing team or a subset of the marketing team, and it is the most fun thing ever. We're all obsessed with each other.
I like that.
There's just like no animosity, no one's annoying. There's no micromanaging, and that's like step one. Is like it's just the culture from the top down is just unbelievable. It makes work not feel like work at all. And we basically have just like, as we've grown the e-commerce business, like we get to a point where like, I was kind of like the one who was needling to launch e-commerce, and it was like me and David, the co-founder, kind of figuring it out at the beginning of COVID last year. And then first step was like, okay, there's a million Facebook comments and emails. We need to figure that out. Hire Eli, run CX. Then it's like, all right, the website's got all these issues. Who's going to deal with those? Hire, Melanie, who's kind of oversees the website. So there's kind of us three in that triangle. And then, kind of underneath and adjacent to us are a growth marketing data analyst, who's Audrey, who's amazing, and handles all like reporting and analytics and budgets, and works really closely with me and finance to figure out like, okay, we have to like run a TV ad. Like, how much do we spend? Where do we put it? Based on, also her experience at Vayner. She ran the WeWork account there, which is like a $250 million a year account. So has done a lot of crazy stuff, but also like still is young and like knows the platform and can get in there and get her hands dirty. And then we've got one other full-time person on CX, and then now a full-time role on kind of like influencer gifting and management. I do all of the paid stuff, but Ariel is amazing and handles all of our gifting. And we do big campaigns we launch with new retailers, and it's just like we have a pretty cool influencer platform called Tribe Dynamics that we just signed on with. That's great. And then Alexa is our social media manager, who kind of like intersects with all of us in different ways. And then we've got a designer who's kind of partially allocated to ecom, and a copywriter who's partially allocated to ecom. And then the linchpin in the center of it all is our project manager, Lauren, who I don't literally know how we could function without her. But as I advise other brands I've invested in and am involved with, I'm like, get a project manager as soon as you can, because she's a freaking godsend. It was also her birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Lauren.
I think that's massive advice for people listening. First of all, that idea of just getting together with your team. I feel like I haven't done that in a really long time. Doing that regularly is really pretty amazing for the flow and for the way everyone interacts, I'm sure. And then that project manager piece, like that's definitely something I have experience with. Being someone who has a lot of different things going on, being really good at unearthing, unique opportunities, but being able to have someone that can like tie it all together is absolutely critical.
Yeah, it's honestly, some of it's just like someone who can move the ball down the field. There's all the ideas people, right? But you need the person who's like gonna go to get copywriter and get the copy done and bring that to the designer to design, and then it goes to like, creative director. It's just it's a lot of pieces in the puzzle, and it's someone who's like super organized and detail oriented, is like really good at threading the needle of like being, exactly annoying enough to get things done on time. So yeah, she's incredible. And it's another one. I had never worked with a project manager before. I never really been at a company where that was a thing. She's a rock star.
Very cool. One of the pillars that we always love to talk about are ways that brands can increase their AOV. And I understand in your e-commerce journey, you recently changed pricing strategies around your 6-packs and your 12-packs. Can you talk a little bit about how that's affected your average order value?
We haven't actually changed pricing.
Oh, I have a note here that you changed pricing strategy from 6-pack to 12-packs.
I mean, we did that way long ago.
Okay.
That was kind of like step one, where we were selling $30 6-packs with one of each flavor, and it was like every comment we'd get were $5 soda. What the hell is this? And people who weren't even ordering it, of course. But that was a very early lesson. We really optimized for like really high margins online at the beginning. And the reality is, we are a venture-backed beverage business that really uses e-commerce to drive trial and awareness, and we don't necessarily have to be like uber profitable online to help make it work across the whole business. So we dropped pricing. This was like March of last year. It was actually March 15th. It was like the week that the border closed and COVID really started hitting. We got rid of the 6-packs. They were way too expensive to kit, and like the shipping just didn't work. And so we only do 12-packs now. We've got some variety packs. We did just add shipping back. We just added a $3.99 shipping charge for orders under $50 to try to incentivize people to order 2 or more. We pick up a little bit of economies of scale there from a shipping perspective. It kind of TBD on the impact. We also launched a new flavor the same week, so hard to delineate between a couple of things there, but we're going to monitor it and kind of see what happens. You also get, if you subscribe, you get free shipping. So our subscription business is insane. We just crossed 7,000 subscribers, and we had 500 in July of last year. It blows my mind how many people get a box of Olipop every 2 weeks, but I think it just speaks to the quality of the product and how many people like need it in their lives, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. Where in the flow of buying a product do you see most conversions into subscription? Is it via email after they've already bought, or is it people signing up right off the top?
Yeah, shocking amount of people sign up right away. I think it's because, and we've kind of, we kind of have our "How did you hear about us?" survey at the end. We use one called No Insights. That's great, by the way. That we've kind of figured out that about 20 to 25% of people who subscribe on first order have bought us in a store. So that's a good example of that flywheel of people try it in a store, they look it up online, they see if they subscribe. It's not quite as cheap as buying in a store, but it's pretty close. And we've got a really slick subscription portal, and we actually text you before your next order processes, which is a big deal. You can swap and skip flavors, and if you're out of town or whatever, you can pause. So we were actually an early adopter of that technology last year. But yeah, we just try to make it as like frictionless as possible. And the pandemic definitely helped. Like, so many people shopping online for the first time. And
totally.
It's cool. I mean, people are working it into their day to day, and we make it pretty easy. We can get products almost anywhere in the country in like 4 days now. We've got 2 warehouses set up on each coast. So it's pretty seamless. We also have same day delivery in New York, LA, San Francisco, and Chicago. And in those markets, it's instant. You order it and it shows up in an hour. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask if you'd proven out, because you obviously have such a big retail thumbprint as well as your e-commerce biz. Have you proven out any like strong connections between paid marketing spend and increase at local retail, or vice versa?
We actually just were talking about this on a
Yeah.
call. Hard to measure with everything going on in retail and the growth. The stat I've been throwing at people that I think is really interesting. We turned on, like really turned on, influencer podcast marketing in October of last year. So call it Q4. Our retail business from Q4 to Q1 21, we only added about 10% door growth. So we added like 500 new stores, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things. And despite that, our retail revenue doubled. And our sales team is amazing. We have great boots on the ground everywhere. In-store execution is phenomenal. But like growth like that just like doesn't really happen in retail traditionally. And so I do think there is some amount of that we could like kind of draw a line to be like, okay, we started doing all this pretty powerful marketing from influencers, candidly, and podcast hosts, and then within 6 months the business, the in-store business doubled. Like that, you just don't see velocity gains like that. The sales per store doubled. We're literally selling more than 2x as many cans per week at Whole Foods currently than we were less than 6 months ago. So again, hard to really suss it all out, but you just kind of look at what you're spending, and you look at, we actually have decreased spend from January to now on the paid media side, and it's the business is growing like a weed. So something's working somewhere.
That's amazing. Well, your partnerships that you've orchestrated have to be a part of it for sure, of becoming ubiquitous. We've talked a little bit about esports partnership. We've talked about influencer and sort of spokespeople type representative partnerships. What other kind of partnerships do you think about for Olipop?
We do like giveaways and stuff. We try to do, we don't really half-ass anything. Like even our giveaways are like stunningly beautiful photography and really amazing, honestly. So I always think of like everything we do really intentionally. And then I don't know, in terms of partnerships, I think of like, I don't know, like fast casual restaurants are like partners, and we've gone pretty deep with a couple of those types of accounts in New York, and in LA, candidly, where we actually have a video guy who goes in, kind of like shoots a little ad or commercial type of thing, and maybe tells the founder story, shows the food, shows Lollipop with the food, and we'll let them use that content to help with their marketing. So yeah, I don't know. We don't go too crazy. I think some of these like co-creating a flavor with some like tier one celebrity would be like the pinnacle of the partnership concept, honestly. But we don't do too much of that type of stuff.
I see it in your future. I think you can manifest.
I'm manifesting it. I just keep saying it. It's gonna happen.
I love it. So what are your goals for the next 6 to 12 months at Olipop?
We think we can be a 9-figure brand next year, which is lofty, but with the way things are going right now, I don't think it's out of the question. I think my personal mission is to we are everywhere in the 24 to 48-year-old kind of white female higher household income bucket, which is like Whole Foods and Sprouts, right? And to get this thing to be, $100 million business, we need to reach males, we need to reach across the aisle, we need to reach, different demographics, different socioeconomic classes. And so I'm very focused on figuring out what those next pockets are. Is it esports? Is it doing stuff with people like Kenny Mayne? We have a very well-known basketball player who's invested in the business and kind of helping get our name out in that world. Is it music? Is it live music? How do we reach these people outside of like our current tent? How do we expand the pie? And so that's sort of what I think about every day. That's what in my brain growth marketing is like, how do we leverage the power of the brand and the people around it to reach the right new audiences.
And the state of the world as well, like the fact that the world, especially America, is really opening up, and how you can kind of really capitalize on that amazing trend.
Yep.
Is part of it as well.
And a lot of people got much more into health and wellness last year when they started thinking about their immune systems for the first time. And so I think, I do think our products is kind of like the right place, right time, where people want a soda, they want to feel better about it, and there's gut health, and we have, I think, very cute packaging and branding that makes people feel happy when they need it, and all that stuff kind of works together to build something pretty spectacular.
I love it. Okay, well, we have some quick questions here. The first one is one I think you could probably just do a whole podcast on. I think you're a big fan of other D2C brands. So pick two other D2C brands that you're a big fan of outside of yours.
Um, this is, I guess, it's kind of a shameless plug, but I do love everything that they do. It's a coffee business that I'm an investor in called Jot, like super concentrated, coffee. I also am like obsessed with this product called 8 Greens. It's like these little greens tablets that you drop into water and basically makes a perfect green juice with like absolutely no mess and tastes amazing and like just honestly makes water taste better. And they crush it. They do an amazing job online. They're both those businesses are both small, high value items, light, easy to ship, perfect for recurring. Like it pains me every day watching our shipping costs. There's really no scale in shipping beverages. It's expensive whether you ship one case or 10. It's all by weight. It's all going through FedEx, UPS. But those products are light, easy to ship. They're high AOV. They're very recurring based. There might be a world one day where we have a product that plays in some category like that that's really just built for e-commerce, because beverages are not built for e-commerce.
Interesting. Now, you alluded to the fact that you're invested in one of these companies. Can we talk a little bit about your sort of investment history in the space? Like, I think this D2C space is such an interesting place with all the roll-ups happening, and I'm interested in your sort of take on the venture space.
Yeah, so I kind of cut my teeth there. I got into the kind of early stage consumer space through a VC firm in San Francisco, and totally fell in love with it. This is totally my home. I was in high finance before that, which was not my favorite place. And I've just kind of been fortunate through some like consulting and stuff to be able to start doing very small angel investments, just to be clear. But I do love it, and I love giving back. I love helping, and I'm mostly looking for founders that I love with great products. And oftentimes the brands I get involved with don't have like deep investor networks where I can come in really early, in general pre-launch, and put in like a very small amount, maybe help them raise more money. Maybe it's through like a syndicate with other friends. And we have amazing investors in Olipop, many of whom have scaled and sold businesses themselves and are now investing in brands. And there's a handful of us who kind of look at things together. I honestly have had way less time for this in the last kind of 8-10 months than I did before, but I am very fortunate, and I get a lot of brands and things pass my way when people think I'll think it's interesting. And there's an incredible cookie business called Last Crumb that I'm about to get involved in that does these extremely bougie cookie drops every Wednesday morning, and they're selling out like $120 boxes of cookies in 15 seconds, and like not 10 of them, like hundreds of them every week. And so that's one that I just think is like super rad. The cookies are amazing. The team's awesome. And one where I think I can actually add a lot of value through my relationship, whether they want to go into retail or do influencer marketing or jump into podcasts. I have a lot of friends in that world, so I really try to get involved with stuff that I use every day and or regularly, and where I can actually like really add value from an early kind of from the early stages.
And aside from the incoming leads, is Twitter your main tool there for reach out and research?
No, it's not. I'm in a bunch of like kind of underground Slack communities
Nice.
in and around the consumer e-commerce ecosystem, and I'm like in several of them, like kind of like the food and beverage guy. So if somebody meets somebody doing something in food and beverage, it often ends up in my inbox somehow. And every now and then I find something that like I'm also in LA, and like candidly, our Erewhon is this kind of high end grocery store chain here that is an incubator of small brands. And I actually have a vegan deli across from my house, which is very LA, I know. That is like prides themselves on having every new brand first. I've actually made friends with the GM there, and she's always like sending me product. I just like you got your people in your life that are always like bringing you these things. And candidly, a lot of those people, a lot of the new brands are like interested in like knowing what Olipop is doing, and they're always down to like send product in exchange for a 30-minute call or whatever. So yeah, it's mostly just relationship. I've been doing this for in and around the consumer ecosystem for 7-ish years. You just meet enough people and do good things for people, good stuff comes back around.
Love it. Well, I think we'll save the TV question until after you've actually executed on this campaign. We can maybe have you come back and talk about how that went. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I think you're an absolute fountain of D2C knowledge. It's been
funny because I left investing to learn e-commerce, and actually went to another startup. And it actually failed, and I didn't learn any e-commerce there. But it's put your head down and try to work hard and do good things with good people. And it's kind of fun being in this role now where it's like I've been immersed in this world that I wanted to learn so badly, and it's been so fun. I equate e-commerce and retail are so different, right? Like retail takes months of planning and prep, and all you gotta be in the store stocking the shelves, and you don't get data back till the month after. And like e-commerce is like boom, like this ad we're gonna run on Monday, we're gonna know if it's performing on Tuesday, right? Which I'm obsessed with as like a Gemini who's moving fast and doing a million things.
Retail is inherently entrenched, right? It's run by people that go to the same stores. It's fueled by people, by the customers that go to all these same places. But e-commerce is so digital, crucial. It's changing all the time, and so I think that leads to really exciting people that you meet in this space, I would say.
The coolest people. When is this episode going to come
out? This is going to be in a couple of weeks, probably.
Oh shoot! Okay, I'm going to be in New York on the 17th, hosting a kind of consumer e-commerce event. It's probably going to be completely booked out by next week, so I don't want to say just show up. So I won't say where it is on here, but maybe we can figure out something we can do together at some point. Maybe we can host an event. I'll be back in New York in August. So. We're not in New York. We're in Canada.
This is awesome. We'll just let this be the outro of the podcast. So thanks for coming by. But this is really exciting because we love this idea of events. I come from an event space. Potentially masterminds. I love the idea of getting together like some of the biggest brand owners in the world. And
I did like a Zoom last year, right during the beginning of COVID, of like we just launched online. I learned a bunch, and I was like, let's just get a bunch of e-commerce people on and talk. And it was like an hour that went like 2.5 hours, and just like spouting off different stuff, and like it was cool. It's like everyone there's a lot to learn in the e-commerce space. I've learned everything I've learned from guys like the folks at Magic Spoon and some of our investors even who've been deep in the e-commerce space for a long time. And it's the easiest way to learn, talking to people who've done it and who are, a couple, months or years ahead of you.
Love it. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on again. And we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay. Peace, Steven.